Hey guys, this is a mod
Hello.
for Half-Life 2 called the Stanley Parable. I'm going to be playing through it, and Niall's going to be co-commentating. He actually can't hear any sound besides me talking right now, and
But
occasional
that's
music,
fine.
but it should make for some interesting commentary.
Yeah. I
Alright,
have no
here we
idea
go.
what this is, so we're through Stanley. Okay,
This
for the
is the
code.
story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor next to his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on a monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and walked out into the hallway.
Alright guys, basically,
Lovely silent opening there.
basically, this is a game where your entire life is narrated by an awesome British guy. Niall does not get the benefit of hearing the awesome British guy yet, but he will eventually.
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
Hello? Are you there? Looks a bit like a head crab on the monitor.
When Stanley came to a set
So,
of two open doors,
this guy pushes
he
buttons
entered the
for
door on his left.
Pretty much, it's like George Jetson. Jetson.
Mm.
Did you say door on my left or my right?
Picking up between 1 and 10.
18?
Go right. Step into
This
the
was
left.
not the correct way to the employee
No, go
lounge,
left.
and Stanley knew it perfectly well. So he turned left at the first open door and walked back in the right
Okay,
direction.
well, you chose incorrectly, so go back and go to the left, I guess.
And like that, he was back on track.
Yes, basically, you can, that's a good example of, in this game, you can choose to follow the narrator's statements or not. I've seen what happens when you don't, and I kind of want to see what happens when you do.
As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here. He decided he would walk up to see his boss, hoping that he would find an answer there.
Dang, these doors are awesome. Wish I had doors like this at my work.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Go downstairs.
I want to go downstairs.
We are rebel. We are rebel. Oh, yes. Look how wonderfully powerful
But Stanley
you are.
just couldn't do it.
From the system.
He considered the possibility of facing his boss, of admitting that he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, was it really worth taking that risk? All because he believed everyone had disappeared? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. Everyone I know simply vanishing out of the blue, there's almost no other explanation for it. And a nagging fear began to creep up in his mind. Questions that had been there all along. He just hadn't put his finger on them yet. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Was he just walking around in circles? Where am I, he thought. And the more he found himself unable to answer these questions, the more questions continued to arise, until he came to the issue that had been slowly boiling until he could ignore it no longer. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Suddenly, every door slammed shut. No, Stanley screamed. I need to get out of here. I need to know that there's something out there. I need to know it's not just all in my head. And he screamed and clutched at his skull as the voice grew harsher and the music in the background rose higher and higher. And then, moments before collapsing to the ground, Stanley clenched his fists and screamed to anyone who might be listening, I'm not real! I'm not real! Don't believe any of it! None of it's real! And then everything went black.
That's awesome.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
What?
What? Ariella?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She got dressed, went to work, clocked in, clocked out, and then she walked home. But her walk on this day was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Moments after seeing him, she would turn, run to the nearest police station, and call for an ambulance. But for just a few brief seconds, she merely stood there, unable to move.
That it was over.
The tragedy was not the death of a single person. It was that she would never know this man's story, never hear in his own words what had happened to him, or what he believed had happened to him. For to know these things would be to exist inside the head of the man himself. So all she could do was observe from a distance and pity him. But Mariella had places to be and people to meet with, very important people, whose impressions of her would affect her career and indeed the rest of her life. She stood there for only a moment, looking down at the body, and then she ran.
Well, that was short. We're probably going to record several playthroughs of this, guys. We'll see which one's the funniest. We might use highlights from all of them. We might just put them all together. Who knows? Let's start over. I'll start from the beginning again.
Wait, back up. What just happened? That's it?
That's one ending.
The psychological world of craziness?
Pretty much.
Hold on. Let me try to grasp this, okay? Let me try to let me play back with words what just happened to you, and you say if I have this right or not. Okay. So this dude he pushes buttons for a living. Okay.
Yep. Right here in a room, he pushes buttons.
You are given two choices.
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his code.
Go to another, or go down the stairs.
He never functioned well by
It's
himself.
psychological freak out.
Constantly
Some
needed
chick found
support
him
and
at the
guidance
side of the
from
sidewalk.
others,
She was
so the
too
thought of
scared to
total
run away, so she
solitude
stared
was
at you in
terrifying to
presence.
him.
No. She was pitying him because she would never know why he had gone insane.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door
Mariella.
on his left.
Thanks. Where did she come from? Why did she
Nowhere. Nyle, you're reading too far into this.
I'm so confused.
As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here.
We're starting it
He
again.
would walk up to see his
That was
boss,
just one of the endings.
hoping
There's
that he would
many
find an
endings
answer
in this.
there.
I think this time we're going to go up the stairs, since last time we went down the stairs and
Coming to a staircase,
everything went
Stanley
to,
walked upstairs
crap.
to his boss's office. Entering his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. It was at this point that he began to feel dizzy and a little sick, and even thought he might pass out when suddenly he noticed a keypad next to the filing cabinet in the corner of his boss's office. Stanley had never seen this panel before and had no idea what combination of numbers would produce any result. In fact, only Stanley's boss knew this, since the panel withheld access to the boss's greatest, darkest secret. and so he had assigned the keypad a combination that only he could possibly know. The number of his freshman dorm number in college. 1957.
1957.
But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. Stanley ventured forth into the newly opened passageway. As he drew deeper into the bowels of the building, Stanley had no idea where he was or what this place held. And just as he began to think he might not discover a thing, he emerged into a long room to find
A door.
rows and rows of monitors. Screens with a number above it. Stanley noticed, however, that these were not random numbers, but the number of employees who worked in the building, his co-workers. Even his own number, 427, had a place on the wall.
427, Tyrus.
But why a setup so
427.
elaborate, he asked. Was this simple surveillance, or something even more? And as if in answer to his question, the walls slid open before him, revealing the ultimate truth of the
What?
situation.
Where did
Whoa!
What in the
What?
matters?
What's going on? Oh no. Am I gonna have to start freaking out again?
An
Tyrus, I'm
enormous
scared.
control panel
I'm
Stanley
scared.
discovered, but not one that controlled simple machinery.
Figure this out.
Buttons were labeled with emotions. Happy, sad. Levers and knobs controlled actions. Walking, eating, doing work, or watching TV. Every input on this device monitored not the functions of a machine,
I'm
but
a
of a
robot.
human being. And the
No,
reality began
I'm
to
the
sink
real
in.
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Stanley, like so many other people, reduced to images on a monitor, had been under someone's control, always at the mercy of this machine. Could this have been the only reason employee number 427 was content with his boring job? That a machine had altered his emotions to accepted behavior? He began to feel an unbridled rage, and at the peak of his anger, something happened. A spark. Stanley looked up and saw the generator overhead, still providing some small amount of power to the machine, keeping it alive. And knowing that this generator was all that kept the controls running, Stanley moved to the ladder in the back of the room and began to climb towards the rafters.
Wonder what happens if I push all the buttons.
Ladder in the back of the room.
Nyle, I'm pushing all the buttons first. Sounds more fun.
Oh, I know. I'm just trying to remember what it said. I have lag.
I guess
Why don't you just
that.
push the last button and everything explodes? Everything.
I did push the last button. I've already pushed the red buttons too. Ah,
You should invent Solomon and just explode the others.
it would have been funny if it exploded. So Stanley's a robot, sort of. He's a
The
human
higher Stanley
being
climbed,
controlled by a
Shut
robot.
the closer he felt to freedom,
Yeah, he's
the
Shadow
further
Hedgehog.
from enslavement.
Maria! No!
What's the worst Shadow Hedgehog voice you've ever done?
No, it's not. Go watch Tyrus now. Do it. Knuckles and Shadow have a man tape. That is the worst Shadow there is. Life or death, Tyrus? Then Marissa walks out and she's behind it all!
You mean Mariella?
Shut up.
Stanley was happy working for the robot. That would make Stanley happy.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you?
I don't know.
After it kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself? Is that what you wanted? Control? Stanley. Stanley. I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were meant to let it go, turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you have. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized that he had just initiated
Yay,
the
explosion.
network's emergency detonation system.
We made an explosion.
In the event that this machine is activated
finally,
without proper
after
DNA
all this
identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Oh, let's make it say, 2 minutes. Now,
Oh, snap.
this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? Go ahead. Play with those controls all you like. The
Run!
real controls are where I'm
Go
sitting.
meet Matilda!
Did you really
Or whatever
ever
her name
believe
is.
you held
Go.
any power? Did you not think I knew what I was doing? When I erased your co-workers and turned off the machine, I was offering you freedom, an escape. I didn't have to do that.
Oh dear.
I've run this story many times, and I don't always set you free. Sometimes you just sit there, day after day after day, doing your job forever, and then dying alone. But when I actually give you the freedom to control your own actions, it's not
Alright,
enough.
dude.
I let you
I
go,
think I know
and
what
you
you're
chucked
supposed to
yourself just the same. You just weren't made to handle this sort
Get
of
out of there.
responsibility, I'm
Does it
afraid.
push all the buttons?
But you know what
This
you
is gonna
were made
explode.
for?
And, you know what will
Pushing
happen when it explodes?
buttons.
You know what?
Dying.
Get it now?
The smoke.
Now I'm enjoying this. Tell you what, I'll throw some extra time on the clock just because I'm having so much fun. There we go. You see, I want to watch you for every long second you try to puzzle this out. After all, it should make sense, right? The timer, the nuclear detonation, the mysterious facility, it's all here. This is a video game. Except for one thing there, hero. You've got no weapon, no vehicle. You don't even know where you're going. When you saw that timer, you just instinctively started trying to find an exit,
No, I
didn't
started
you?
pushing buttons.
In fact, I bet you're still looking for a way out. I bet you're clicking on everything in this room, trying to open doors or vents or something and solve the puzzle. As though this game has a solution, as though it can be won.
I'm waiting for him to give me a clue.
That timer is not a catalyst to keep things moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. It's the moment when the hero realizes that despite his best efforts, he is powerless to his environment. And then he lets go. He surrenders. And he dies. 30 seconds, Stanley. 30 seconds. Until a boom, and then nothing. No ending to this story, just you dying. I suppose you could have gotten an actual ending if you played along, but that just wouldn't have been your style, would it? Instead, you'll perish knowing that the only choice you made here was to turn on that machine and to start this
I
timer.
only turned it on because I didn't remember
But
what
you
he told
won't
me
be
to do.
alone, because I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here to watch every second of your inevitable life from the time we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
Love you, man!
Wow, there was no way to get out of there. I'm rather surprised. Alright, let's get back to that point, and I'll turn off the machine this time. Alright guys, we're back to where we were.
I'm happy. We're gonna make him happy because I'm scared when he gets mad.
I think he wants us to disable it, considering how we exploded last time.
Yep.
That was still pretty awesome though.
Oh, Stanley.
It's dark now.
Blackness. Power gone.
Kinda black.
All alone. And then,
Science!
as he stepped through the door into the fresh outside air, a feeling of liberation rushed through Stanley's body. He had seen power. He had seen enslavement, and he had destroyed it. The underling was in control
It's got its
now.
own music now.
He had found his leading role.
Leading role doing what?
Stanley never discovered why everyone had gone missing, nor how and when he had come under the machine's control. But it didn't upset him terribly, because he knew that this was how things were meant to happen. All he felt was a delight unlike any he had ever known before. Never again would he follow someone else's orders without question. Never again would anyone tell Stanley where to go, what to do, or how
And
to
he got
feel.
hit by a bus.
No more bosses. No more instructions on a screen. Stanley decides for himself now.
I kind of wanted to push him up.
And he stepped out into the world.
Oh no.
And he felt the cool breeze upon his skin.
I'm pushing buttons
And Stanley
every day, every month,
happy.
every year, past couple of years. So
Alright. There's one more ending, guys. But I think I'll let you guys find it
yep.
yourselves.
AKA Tyrus.
Thank you, Davey Raiden, for a very interesting journey through the mind of a very, very odd individual.
I don't remember what I said on my first freak out, but if I insulted your map, I sincerely apologize. It just really set me back a little bit.
Anyway,
Tell me anything about it.
right.
So what? Slash.
Alright, well, this has been Tyrus.
And this has been Nyle. 6 Ghosts.
We'll see you guys later.